Welcome to the Fibromyalgia Podcast. I'm Tami Stacklehouse, fibromyalgia coach, author, and founder of the International Fibromyalgia Coaching Institute. The goal of this podcast is to empower you with access to the dream team of experts and coaches I've discovered are key to living the fibro life you love. From the comfort of your own home, and maybe even your pajamas, I'll help you take back control of your life and health. To help out with fibro fog, I always include full show notes and additional resources at fibromyalgiapodcast.com. Welcome to the Fibromyalgia Podcast. I'm your coach, Tami Stacklehouse, and this is episode 88. In today's episode, I'm so excited to be sharing our 5th Fibromyalgia Stories of Hope and Healing. This comes from a live event that we did just a few days ago and features interviews with our newest graduates, sharing how they have been able to improve their fibromyalgia over the last few months. Now, I know they are really what you are here for, so we'll get to their interviews in just a minute, but I do want to put a few of the things that we talk about in this episode into context for you. One of the things that you'll hear us talk a lot about in the interviews is the Fibromyalgia Impact Questionnaire score, or the FIQ score. The Fibromyalgia Impact Questionnaire is a measuring stick, you could think of it as, that we use to measure the impact of fibromyalgia on a person. Now, the bigger the impact, the more symptoms you have, the lesser the impact, the more mild your symptoms. So we are looking for lower scores and not higher scores. Now, to kind of give you an idea, this is on a scale of 0 to 100. And when they were creating this tool, they did a study of over 300 fibromyalgia patients, and they showed that on average, your typical fibro patient out there was probably around a 58, so just a little bit above the middle. You'll hear in the interviews the improvement and some of the scores for each individual graduate. So just to kind of put that in context, your average fibro person is just above middle at 58. I also want to give you a little bit of a context for how much improvement other things might typically give. So the 3 FDA-approved fibro meds, Savella, Cymbalta, and Lyrica, they give about a 20% improvement for the people that it actually works for. It doesn't work for everybody, but for the ones that it does, it's about a 20% improvement on average. A type of therapy, like if you were to go work with a counselor or a psychotherapist, it's called acceptance and commitment therapy. This type of therapy showed a 27% improvement on the Fibromyalgia Impact Questionnaire score. There was also a study done a few years ago looking at health coaching for fibromyalgia. Now, these were not certified fibromyalgia coaches. They were just regular health coaches. And after a year of working with their coach, people saw about a 35% improvement on the Fibromyalgia Impact Questionnaire score after a year. Now, this class, you will hear in the individual interviews how much each person has improved. But to give you an idea of the class overall, our average beginning score was 48. So we were a little bit better than your average fibro person. We started a little bit better off. But by the end, on average, these students scored an 18. So they went from a moderate form of fibromyalgia to mild symptoms. On average, this class improved their Fibromyalgia Impact Questionnaire score by 62%. We had one person who improved by 74%. You will hear about that in the interview here. So this is almost double the best other type of therapy, right? Also, they accomplished this in 3 months. So you might remember I said that working with a health coach in the study, they improved by 35%, but that was after a year. So these students have improved on average 62% in just 3 months. You will hear how they've done that in their interviews. Now, I want to be clear. We are not doctors. We do not treat fibromyalgia per se. We, meaning a fibromyalgia coach, does not treat fibromyalgia. But what we do is we educate you. We encourage you. We help you troubleshoot what's going on. We can give you information that you can take to your doctors, and we can help you get the treatment that you need from your providers on your healthcare team. So, just to be clear, the information that you're going to hear in these interviews definitely is not supposed to be medical advice, and it definitely does not replace talking with your doctor. But it is designed to give you some new ideas that you can take to your doctor and talk to them about. I also just want to mention that these women are sharing their personal medical history. And so I've sort of left it up to them how specific and detailed they want to be. I encourage them to share as much as possible to help you. But if there are some details that are sort of glossed over, it's because it's their personal medical history, and we don't want to compromise that. Now, after the interviews are over, I would love for you to keep listening. We had one graduate who couldn't be at the event live, and I'm going to share her story after the interviews. I'll also tell you how you can take the same class that these ladies did. We'll give you some more information at the end. The last thing I want to say before we start the interviews is that this event was recorded live. So the sound might be just a little bit different than you're used to. I hope you'll bear with us on that. You'll also find the bios. You'll find information on each of these graduates in today's show notes. Just go to fibromyalgiapodcast.com/88. With that, I would like to go ahead and dive into our interviews. So first up, we have Clara. Hi, Clara.
Hi, Tami.
How are you?
I'm doing great today.
Good, good. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank
And
you.
I want to start off with you talking about one of the things that you learned during class and about yourself that's actually kind of backwards from what everybody usually thinks we need to do. And in a few of your class assignments, you actually mentioned that you found that you needed to focus on exercise and nutrition less. Can you
hmm
talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, for so many years, I was just focusing on nutrition and exercise because I need to lose weight. The doctors kept on telling me, well, if you lose weight, with like 18%, 10% of your total weight, you may not need the CPAP machine. Or, your inflammation will reduce, things like that. But I struggled with it. I just didn't know. I was trying to, cut calories, exercise more. Nothing was working. And then going through the class, I realized I had a shift, not just my focus, but the way I thought about things and how my health is different than somebody else's. We're all unique individuals. The things that we try will not work for everybody across the board. So
Right.
it's all like an individual thing.
And I remember one of the things that you said too was that you kind of looked at self-care like a job that you had.
Oh, yes. Yes. Because it's like I had a list of things that I did, that I checked off every day, besides, exercise, lemon water, things that I thought in the beginning were, taking care of myself, making myself a priority, going to therapy, that was like the beginning for me as far as what I considered my self-care, which was very important, by the way, my mental wellness, because that had a big impact on everything else. It's like a trickle effect. But yeah, it was just that self-care part, it ended up being a chore, something else that I was adding to my day, and eventually it was just more tiring and frustrating because what I was thinking was self care was really, I was just piling more things on top and causing more stress and anxiety for myself.
So what did you do different after you realized that?
I had to like completely stop hit the pause button and just reassess everything that I was doing. Taking a look at truly what is self care? What is self care for me as an individual? Not what's typical, getting a massage, going to spa, even going to the chiropractor. That was part of my self care. But really taking a look, and it's like, okay, what is it that Clara needs mentally and physically? So I realized I had to really slow down so much in everything that I was doing, realize that I needed to ask for help, which is something difficult for me to do, is, be vulnerable and say that I need help. But making those changes is what actually started helping me. Taking my time, stopping, sitting down. Because before in the past, it's like I would sit down in the sofa, taking a break. And it's like, why am I sitting down? I have so much I have to do. But now I'm realizing I'm more aware of what my body is telling me, that I just need to take a break, whether it's 30 minutes, whether it's half a day, it could be a whole day of just not doing anything, just lounging. And that is what I'm more aware of, that my body's telling me now. That I think was the biggest shift for me in
Hmm.
these last 3 months.
And I know you said too that just being more compassionate with yourself was a big difference
Yes,
too.
yes. Being more forgiving, more compassionate, learning to love myself. That has been the hardest thing for me, because we're so into doing for others as a mom, as a woman, as a wife, that we don't realize we need to take care of ourselves. And that's just in general, that's for anybody. We need to stop and take care of ourselves.
If we don't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of anybody else,
You're right.
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, how did your coach help you with this?
Wow. My coach, she helped me so much. It was great to have a coach because the coach can see objectively. They can see the big picture as you're talking to them with whatever you're struggling with. And then they can bring out those things that you may not have thought about, like the shift in loving myself and in forgiving myself and the self compassion is just something that I had, I guess, pushed down, in myself, that I needed it to come out because I had this wall that was built up. And it was hard. It was an obstacle. It was hard to overcome that, to get over that wall. With her help and her guidance, she helped me do that.
That's awesome. That's
Mhm.
awesome. You worked with Robin, right?
Yes, yes.
Excellent. Excellent. So, over the last few months, this is a question everybody wants to know. It's why
Mhm.
everybody's here. Over the last few months, what are the things that have helped you the most? What have you done to help improve your fibromyalgia? I'm sure the self care was part of it, but what else?
Yeah, the self care was a big part of it. And with that, really managing my time, looking at how to structure my day, how to pace myself, breaking things down into micro goals. So for example, I have a 2-story house, so it's a lot of cleaning to do. So taking my time and saying, okay, if I have to sweep the floor, do half of it, then go take a break, kind of see how my body's feeling. Can I continue on, or do I just need to stop, let somebody else take over, or just finish it another, at a later time? So just being more mindful of my body, listening more to what my body's telling me, because typically this is how, well, I'm not like this anymore, but usually it was like the go, 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 and you don't stop until you're done, and then you just crash. And then I would have a flare up. It would last a couple of days, and then the recovery time. So, and it was just like a vicious cycle. So by pausing, pacing myself and things that I was doing, and just being more mindful, being more aware of what my body was telling me, it helped a lot.
That's awesome. And
Mhm.
you were the person who had the 74% improvement. So
Yes.
you were top of the class. How has that changed your life? 74% improvement is huge. So, what does that look like in real life?
Well, again, it's that self care. I think that was the biggest shift that I had. Like for me now, I try to get 8 or 9 hours of sleep. I start winding down an hour before I plan on going to bed so that, like, no electronics, my brain is trying to wind down. I get up in the morning, I'll do some stretching, do a devotional or yoga, and kind of like take my time during the day. I plan my activities for the week. And then whatever I don't get to the first day, I just shift it over to the next day. So I don't feel overwhelmed, which causes the stress and anxiety for me in trying to get everything done at once. So I like take it one day at a time.
I love it. I love it. People don't give themselves enough credit, I think, for how much we can improve our fibromyalgia just by managing ourselves a little bit better,
Mhm.
managing the stress in our lives. Those kinds of things really do make a huge difference. And you're such a great example of that.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, the last question I have for
Mhm.
you is I would love for you to just say a word or two to the person out there who has been thinking that, diet and exercise, that's what we're always told. So they've been working hard on those two things and they feel like they've hit a wall and they're still struggling to feel better. I would love for you to just talk to them for a minute.
Well, if you've hit a wall with your nutrition and exercise, and it seems like you just can't lose the weight, it might not be an actual weight issue. You have to kind of assess your environment, your relationships, your work environment, things like that, because the simple thing, stress alone can block your body from actually losing weight because of the cortisol levels. It could be hormonal, low serotonin, things like that. So there's other things that you may have to consider looking at, especially if you have other health conditions, thyroid, adrenal fatigue. There's so many other things that could be looked at to try and figure out why am I not able to lose this weight. And a lot of it, stress creates a lot of that middle weight, in your abdomen area.
Mhm.
So it's not that easy. It's not that simple. Doctors can tell you, well, if you just lose weight, but it's not that easy. In my case, it hasn't been. And the first step that I had to take is acknowledge that I needed help and acknowledge that I needed therapy. Because if I'm not mentally well, mentally and emotionally capable, then those other things aren't going to be able to happen. I needed to be mentally well in order to focus on those other aspects of my health.
Oh gosh, that is so true right there. I mean, like people say, oh, well, just do this, just do that. You just do it if we're Nike, right? But it becomes so hard to just do the thing, particularly if we've got neurotransmitter imbalances that make you not even want to.
Right. And I thought, why is it that I can't get over this hump? What is going on? Why can't I just make the changes? I have the knowledge. Why can't I just do it? So that was the obstacle I had to overcome. And that obstacle was my mental health,
Mm.
is not just knowing exactly what I needed to do. You eat more whole foods, more vegetables, get the nutrient dense foods and things like that. I know all that. So why wasn't it working for me? Well, I had to deal with all the other things in
Yeah.
my health before I can focus on that.
Yep. So true. So true. I always say, it's not that we don't know what to do. I mean, sometimes we don't know what to do, but
Right.
most of us have a clue. And it's just like the actual following through and doing it that's hard, which is
Yeah.
one of the things that I think is so magical about coaching because you have that person to support you, to troubleshoot with you, to help you figure out why are you not doing the things and they can notice things like, hey, maybe you need to talk to somebody about this, or maybe
Right.
there's something else
Exactly.
going on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, congratulations again. And especially congratulations on being top of the class, 74%. Awesome
Thank
job,
you.
Clara.
Thank you. Thank you.
So now we're going to move from Florida, where Clara was. We're going to head over to Missouri, middle of the country. Hello, Rhonda.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm great, thanks.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, when I read your bio, I said that you're a self proclaimed research junkie and that I know you took this class to brush up on all the things that you already knew. But what surprised you? Because I know there were a few things.
Well, one thing that really surprised me was the difference that it made working with a coach. That was really huge. And I've been really successful in controlling my symptoms, but the two things that were lacking were keeping my energy up and getting restful sleep. Having trouble sleeping, but I don't rest. And so the two big things I gained from the course were finding supplements that help raise my energy level and that help quiet my mind at night so that I could get restful sleep.
Those are huge, huge things.
Huge. Yes.
Now, you actually started off with one of our lower FIQ scores to begin with, and you ended with the lowest. You ended at 9.67, which is crazy. I've been trying to search online for this. I have it in my head that somebody said somewhere that if your score is less than 10, you don't really qualify, but I haven't actually found that anywhere. But it kind of makes sense to me, right? Like some of us, we have some fatigue, we might have some brain fog or whatever, but still, like being able to improve 70%, you were second in the class in terms of improvement when you were already doing so well, I think is
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. Me
Did that
too.
surprise you? It
It
surprised
did.
me.
It did. Yeah. I didn't, well, from the time that I was really sick until now, it's been about 20 years. I recognize the quality of my life now was just so far and above what it was 20 years ago. And I just never really expected that I would even improve more than what I already was.
hmm
But my word for this year is transformation, and I've achieved that.
That's awesome. You certainly have, even in the 3 months that we've been together. It's been
Yes.
so amazing to watch. Now, I also said in your bio, you've been a coach yourself for 15 years. And
Yes.
you said that one of the big differences was working with a coach. So
Yes.
let's talk about that for a minute. Because I mean, I'm a fan of coaching because a coach changed my life, not because I am a coach. And I think you're probably a bit the same way now.
Well, and when I'm working with other people, occasionally when I'm giving them suggestions or recommendations, I do recognize that it's not just a message for them, but it's one for me too. But actually working with a coach was really life changing for me. The big thing that I recognized, well, it raised my level of awareness a lot. And now I feel like I work more from a place of intention rather than more of a robotic existence. So that was really big. But right now, in the last couple of weeks, I think I have a level of clarity that I maybe have never had in my life. I've been very productive the last 2 weeks. I've had more clarity with where I want to go and what I want to do. And I found that you can coach yourself to a certain extent if you've accumulated enough information. But sometimes just the mere fact of hearing yourself say something to that coach, it's like something clicks inside of your head and it just changes everything.
Now, you worked with Brenda, right?
Yes,
And I know
yes,
one of the things that you said that you found so valuable about Brenda was the questions she asked you.
yes. And a lot of them were the same thoughts that I have inside of my head, but actually having the physical dialogue or hearing somebody else ask you that question instead of you asking yourself. Sometimes your own conversations in your head get stuck in a loop and they don't move forward, they just stay where they are. But she was always right on target, asking me the question I needed right at that particular time. And it just seemed like every week, whatever came out of our coaching session just really moved me that much further down the line.
That's awesome. I think there's something too about when somebody else is asking you that question, you kind of can't ignore it, right? Where if it pops up in your own head, you can kind of.
Push it out. Yes, that's very true.
Now, I know everybody has been wondering since you said it at the beginning, What did you do to improve your sleep and what improved your energy? And I know with your energy in particular, there was one specific supplement that made a massive difference for you. Let's talk about that because I know everybody wants to know.
Well, I'm a supplement junkie as well as an education junkie. But the two things that I can attribute it all to was I came to this course to brush up on what I already knew, but I knew that there was a lot of new information that I didn't have because my journey has been so long. And so that was the important thing that I learned about D-ribose for the energy and Cerephos. I take it now a couple hours before I go to bed, and like I said before, I've always slept really hard. But now when I sleep, I don't wake up exhausted because I've been busier at night in my head than I am during the day. I still dream at night, but my dreams are calm. They're not chaotic or they're not physically active in my head. And so it's wonderful to be able to wake up feeling rested and refreshed, or sometimes to wake up and feel almost semi comatose because your body's so relaxed, because that wasn't my experience before.
Right. And that is such a common thing with fibromyalgia that we have
Yes,
that unrefreshing sleep, right? Where we
yes,
sleep and sleep and sleep and sleep and we wake up and it's like we didn't sleep at all.
exactly.
Yeah, that supplement was a huge game changer for me as well. And it's probably the best kept secret out there. For those of you who are wondering, it's a supplement that helps shut down cortisol level. We typically are using it at night because most of us with fibromyalgia, we've got too much cortisol at night, which helps wake us up in the morning, which is great, but not when we're trying to sleep. So we want to kind of calm that down. So, yeah, it's been a biggie. Any other things that you've done over the last 3 months that made a difference, or is it mostly those 2?
Well, I was really surprised at how much awareness I developed and how I've learned to really pay attention to things, like to really pay attention if I have a digestive upset to what I've eaten, because I just didn't before. Like I said, I was kind of operating like a robot. And now I feel like I'm just more in a place of awareness and I do things intentionally instead of just doing them. That was really big for me.
Mhm. Yep. People talk about mindfulness. And for me, this is what I really mean when I talk about mindfulness is literally being mindful about
Yes.
what happens in your body, what your body's saying to you, how different things affect you. And I would say that's probably one of the biggest difference between someone like me, like Rhonda, and those of you who maybe don't have your fibromyalgia as well managed, because we know exactly if I do this, this is what's going to happen. This is how I'm going to feel. And here's how I get back to normal.
And I think mindfulness, the term is so overused now. When you think of it more in terms of awareness and intention, it means a lot more. And I've paid more attention to how my body responds to things and respected my limits. And I think learning to respect your own boundaries is really a hard thing to do, but it really serves two purposes. It serves the purpose of serving you, but it also teaches others how to treat you. And so I think that that's really an important piece of the puzzle.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I would love for you, kind of like we just did with Clara. So, the person out there who was diagnosed a long time ago has read all the things, done all the research, has tried all the stuff and is still feeling like they're hitting a wall and not getting where they want to be. What words of wisdom do you have for them or encouragement?
There's a lot of education out there and you can't gain it all. But I think some of the most important progressive steps that I've made over my course or my journey to a better health is from trial and error. And it's not always things that you read in books, but it's learning what works for you because we're each so unique. And I think that's where working with the coach or even with group coaching, we learn from each other because maybe the things that I've tried that haven't worked have worked for you, and you can learn from me. Or maybe the things that you have experienced are the missing piece that I haven't found because real life experiences aren't always found in a book.
Absolutely. And I know that was actually one of the things that you said towards the end of our class was how much you actually learned from the other people in class
Yes.
beyond just me, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, congratulations again, Rhonda. And 70% improvement is awesome,
Thank
especially when you
you.
already felt well. So awesome.
It was
Congratulations.
totally my pleasure to be there. Thank you.
Absolutely. I can't wait for you to go on and help your clients with that.
Yes.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Now we are going to move from Missouri, clear over to the other side of the world, and say hello to Deb in New Zealand.
Morning.
Now,
It is.
Deb, I saved you for last because I know it's early where you are, and we wanted to make sure you were fully awake. What time is
Yep.
it for you?
It's 5 to 9 in the morning. So, yeah, I had to get up quite early this morning. Well, for a Sunday. Yeah.
Well, congratulations. I mean, I think that says something right there. The fact that you could
Oh,
be
yeah.
up and functional at 8:45 in the morning, like that's crazy.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that you said that I just love is the fact that taking this class was finding the missing puzzle piece that made everything else work.
Yeah. As you said earlier, I've had chronic pain for it'll be 10 years next April. So I've tried a bunch of things with that pain, and some of those involved even having operations and different practitioners. And like Rhonda, I'm a bit of a research junkie. So I had masses of information on board, and I'd been to the pain clinic, and that's where I got my fibro diagnosis. I knew I had other things going on, but it was complex because I've got this pain, which I sort of see separately than the fibromyalgia, which I don't think is probably that helpful, but it is a separate thing and it has its challenges. So one of the things I learned through doing this course is that fibro is an amplifier. So if I dealt with my fibro, then I was more likely to bring that other pain, which has always been a little stick in my brain. I don't know how to put it really, but it's always been difficult. So I was more likely to be able to tame that pain, not completely, don't get me wrong. I'm the person that had the death in the family. So I have had stress, but I do know that if my nervous system is calm, then I'm less likely to get the other pain and all the fibro symptoms.
Mm-hmm. And I think you kind of touched on something there that has been such a major theme for our class, which is what if it isn't fibromyalgia? Yes, there's fibromyalgia and fibromyalgia is an amplifier, but anything else that you have going on, when we're thinking about improving our fibromyalgia, yes, we address the fibromyalgia, we turn down that amplifier, but we also have to address the other things, right? It can really be a mistake to just sort of apply everything that's going on and saying, oh, that's fibro. Oh, that's fibro.
Yeah, no. I mean, I knew I had those other things happening to me much earlier than I had the pain, which should have been a little signal, really, that I was a candidate for chronic pain. But I did compartmentalize them somewhat.
Yep, definitely. It can be so easy to do and so easy for our doctors and providers to do.
Oh,
too,
definitely.
right?
It made things even more complex and harder for me to know what was going on.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that is different about you than everybody else in class is that you actually worked with your coach for what, like a year, I think?
Yeah, I think I started with the lovely Julie in April last year, March or April last year. Yeah. So it was actually having her that made me want to do this, because I did. I looked at what she was doing and I thought, that's incredible. And you did say that I've always been interested in peer support because I'm a teacher. That's been something that I've been really interested in, is what we can do to help each other. And so once I met Julie, I was like, wow, yes.
This is part of what we can do to help each other.
Yeah.
And you had a very specific reason for wanting to work with her too. Do you want to talk about that?
Oh, yes. I love these stories of hope and healing. I started by just sort of stumbling on your podcast, Tami, and then I saw that this was happening. So I think it was the second one I'd seen, because I always got a lot out of the stories that people told, and you yourself, of course. So I was watching this one and Julie was on it, and I looked at her and I thought, wow, you're me, but better. And, I know we've got a lot in common, but some things different. Obviously, she lives in America and, some of our things are not the same, but in general, we are very similar, and I could spot it. And I just knew that if I was going to look for a coach, that I needed one that was right for me. And for me, that meant someone who was like me. It might not be the same for everybody, but that was what worked for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think finding the right person to coach you, like that can be such a magic formula.
Oh,
I always use
definitely.
the example, I've had 2 different personal trainers, like, at the gym. And the first one I had was more of the drill sergeant type.
Yeah.
And she's like, do one more, do one
Yeah.
more. And inside I'm like, no.
Yep.
And then the second one I had was like, can you do one more? And I was like, oh, yeah, I could do that. Right. So the personality, the fit,
definitely.
the understanding your life, right? Like that can all make
Julie's
such
a
big
mum
difference.
and a grandma, just like me. And so that was really wonderful to have that.
Yeah.
Well, I've still got it. Yep.
Right. You still have her. So one of the things that you also mentioned, there was a bunch of things that you said in your final interview that I just loved. So the next one I want to talk about is you mentioned that your mindset, how you thought about your pain, changed along the way. Can you talk about that and how Julie helped you with that?
Well, one of the things you learn at the pain clinic is that pain is not dangerous unless it's obviously something acute, where you've got a cancer and you've got pain or something. It's not inherently dangerous. It's made in your nervous system and your brain. And therefore, being able to come to terms with that actually helps you deal with your pain. But I wasn't really doing that particularly well. I knew I should, and I still struggle with it a little bit, to be honest. I've got the good monkey brain that goes round and round. Julie sort of called me out on a few of those things, but also she really helped me learn how to track. So I would look at what I'd been doing, just sort of looking back at how I'd been doing things and where my pain was spiking and not, and thinking about what the reasons for that. And I really came to realize that for me, it's about stress and it's also about busyness. If I'm chronically busy and not stopping, because I am a person who I'm all go, or I used to be a person who is either all stop or all go, then that all go is just not right for me.
Yeah, I am 100% the same way. I can always tell, like, when I start not feeling like myself, like not wanting to do the things that I normally like to do, all of that kind of stuff, I can almost always look at my calendar and see that it's all full.
And I'm good at putting things in. I'm an enthusiastic person. I'm passionate about a lot of things. And so I will fill it up and not realize that I've done that. But other thing, and I don't know if you can answer me about this or not, but is I had a terrible boundary problem. I don't like to say no, and I would say yes even when I wanted to say no.
You had a big moment like that in class, actually. Something came up during class and you had to kind of work through those boundaries and,
I can't
stand up.
remember what it was, Tami. But
Yeah, I don't remember the specifics either, but I remember having that conversation about how I want to say no, but I don't want to say no.
It was a work thing. And I needed to stick to my guns because, one of the sort of related things with this is I wasn't very good at saying I'm not a completely well person. It's that thing of being capable and you can do stuff. And I was always that person. And to be honest, that drove me in some ways. You get the reward from that. But actually, it's not important. My health is more important than that.
Right. Yeah.
And the happiness of all the people, myself and all the people around me, because I'm not a disaster. Yeah.
Right. If mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So what have you done over the last few months that you think has made the biggest difference for you?
Okay. So I think definitely tracking. We got a little form that we filled in, but I'm one of those people, I've got a weekly planner, and I actually bought it for my mum who had dementia, and she just looked at it and went, no. So I took it home, and all of a sudden I realized that for me that was quite good just to sit down at night and scribble a few things on and put my pain and fatigue scores on, and then I could look at the week. So that's been really, really helpful. Getting my sleep sorted is still a little bit of a work in progress. I discovered I had sleep apnea just before the course started. And so I think in February I got my machine, and it has made a massive difference. But I can still wake in the night with that adrenaline rising. So I wrote the Serifos thing down. I know we did that in class, but I'm going to have a look for that.
I'm going to pause you real quick. I know a bunch of people have asked about that. After I finish with Deb, I'll revisit that. So yeah.
Okay. tracking boundaries, definitely boundaries. And I am a work in progress, but I'm practicing on the people that love me and that I love. And just knowing that I've got to be true to myself and say, I can't do that right now, or I really want to do that. Can we do it a different way? Can we have a chat on the phone? That sort of thing. What else? I did write a little bit of things down here. Not hurrying. Like, having that time in the morning that everyone else has talked about to just get myself going. And, when I found Julie, I really needed to make a big change in my life. And I knew I needed to make it. And I'd been sort of fiddling around on the outside. And I thought she was going to help me make the decision, but actually I'd made it already. I was already part-time at work, but I've been teaching nearly 30 years. And I knew it was just getting too much for me. So Julie helped me to find the words to ask to come out of the classroom, but to stay in my job because I love it there. So doing that has made a huge difference, but I still needed to look, because we start our term in January, February here. So I still need to look at the last term when I haven't been in the classroom and say to myself, am I any better? And actually what I discovered was it's my attitude to work more than the work itself.
So
but I've learned that.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is
Yeah.
making a difference to me, a huge difference.
Very cool. Very cool. And I know part of this too was your interaction with your providers, right? And learning how to ask for what
Yep.
you actually need
Yep.
and like talk about what's important at the appointment instead of having to go back again.
Yes. I felt really buoyed by the other people in the group when we talked about this, and talking to Julie about it a lot, because I find it really difficult to talk to doctors. I sort of, I do go with things in mind that I need, and I'll often end up being really positive and cheery, and then I go away thinking, oh, I didn't actually get what I wanted. Part of that is because I've had so many interactions with doctors and not all positive over the course of the last 10 years. And so I've become slightly reticent about asking for things. But I also think a real fear of being called a hypochondriac. And I know that, again, it's tied up with being that person that's competent and not sick, but I am. And that's okay. So I just need to ask. Otherwise, I can't get what I want. But, you take a few knockdowns. I mean, I had one last year with a rheumatologist who wasn't as kind to me as I would have liked. And so you take those knockdowns, but you've got to get back up and go, right, this is actually my health here. I've got to do the right thing by myself.
Mm-hmm. And I think too, and I've talked about this many times, but we almost need to start seeing our providers a little bit like we see restaurants, right? If we have a bad experience, they're not God. We can fire them and go somewhere else. And I know everybody's medical system isn't the same. And so that is less possible in some areas of the world, but still, like, we deserve better than that.
That's true. And I have to say that my doctor is lovely. And that's part of the problem. She's so lovely. I go for a chat and she's lovely. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So you improved 56% over the course of class. And that was taking the FIQ at the beginning and then taking it at the end. And between those, you had the death in the family.
Right, the day that I took it, I think, the day after I took it.
That's right. That's right. I remember you saying you were, So I think that's amazing, really, to improve that much going through all the things that you went through. So I'm so proud of you, Deb.
Thank you,
Really,
Tami.
Yeah. So what's next for you?
Okay, so continuing to do what I've been doing. I have to say this is not a destination. I'm not sure I really like the word journey because, well, it is a journey. You've got to keep doing the things, not flogging yourself. But, if I don't do what I have to look after myself, I'm not going to continue to see an improvement. I'm not going to continue to feel good. So I do have to take care and be mindful every day of how I do things. So that's an ongoing thing. I love my job. I don't want to give it up just yet. I'm 60 now, so, you start to think about these things. But I do love my workplace and my job and the interaction with students that I still get. But I've also been given a little gift in some ways with this chronic pain and fibromyalgia. And because I've got those, I suppose it's skills of working with people, I want to make the most of that and I want to help other people. So that's why I'm doing the coaching. So I can see that as a little sort of segue, really. And if anyone from work is watching, I'm not leaving.
Right, exactly.
But I do want to, and, just be able to help the pain community here as well. Fibromyalgia is far less known about here. and there's far less support. So that's something in the back of my brain that is ticking away.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, you and I have talked about this, but that's exactly how I felt too, working with my coach. I felt like I'd been given this gift, you know, like I was holding this beautifully wrapped present and I just wanted to like give it away, you know? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Such a great
Definitely.
thing. Well, congratulations again, Deb. Have a great rest of your day. Your day is just starting. We're going to wind down over here. But it has been a pleasure, and I can't wait to keep working with you. Deb is going to be back on a future graduation when she graduates as a coach. That's right. And that wraps up the live event portion of today's episode. Now, you might remember at the beginning, I mentioned we had one graduate who could not be there live. Lynn has an amazing story, and I want to make sure that I share it with you because I think you'll find it very encouraging. Lynn has had fibromyalgia for many, many years, and she's actually had her fibromyalgia in remission 2 times before. The first time she was in remission, her doctors decided to end some of her treatment, and of course, her symptoms worsened. After that, she found the guaifenesin protocol, got her symptoms in remission again, and did really well for many years. Then, like happens to so many of us, she had some personal trauma in her life. That trauma left her essentially bedridden with her fibromyalgia. When she started taking this class, she was super, super foggy, very fatigued, and a few times attended the class from her bed. Now, by the end of the class, 3 months, Lynn had improved 47% and has now been able to drive herself to appointments. She goes shopping for an hour, walking around the store at a time, and she is exercising most days using her stair climber. Now, this is a huge improvement for her. And the reason I want to mention this and mention Lynn's story is because she had been using all the tools she knew how to do and the things that had actually worked for her before, getting her fibromyalgia into remission before, and it just wasn't working this time. In class, Lynn discovered that a lot of her symptoms were actually being caused by other things, not fibromyalgia at all. And because this is Lynn's story, I'm going to not mention some specifics here because that's her story to tell. But in uncovering those other conditions and getting those treated, it also helped her fibromyalgia. Now, I've mentioned it many, many times on the podcast. Fibromyalgia is an amplifier. So if you have pain that's being caused from another condition, a bad knee, or your thyroid is off, fibromyalgia is going to take that pain and amplify it and make all of your pain worse, all of your fatigue worse. So treating those other things actually does help your fibromyalgia. Now, our last episode, episode 87, you might remember me talking about this. That episode exists because of Lynn. So episode 87 is all about what if it isn't fibromyalgia. So go back and listen to that if you haven't. That was actually inspired by Lynn's story. So 47% got her back out of bed and back to living her life. Now, I do want to mention a little bit, you might have been inspired by these stories and want to know how you could get results like this. I want you to know that these results actually are pretty typical for the people who go through our Certified Fibromyalgia Advisor program. I would say on average, our students improve their scores by about 50%. Some are less, some are more, but it's about 50% on average. So if you would like to try that out, we do have a new class that's starting on August 30th. And so as you're hearing this, there is still time to join us. Just go to fibromyalgiapodcast.com/88 for today's show notes, and we'll have a link where you can learn more about our Certified Fibromyalgia Advisor training program and how to enroll. This program is perfect for you if you are a fibromyalgia patient and you like to learn and you are ready to do what you need to do to feel your best. If you've got the time, the energy, and the resources to invest to figure out what's going on with your fibromyalgia, or maybe not with your fibromyalgia, like with Lynn's story, separating out some of those symptoms and getting those things treated. This is also perfect for you if you're interested in one day becoming a fibromyalgia coach yourself. This is the first step to that. This is the class that teaches all of the fibromyalgia information. We start on August 30th, and as of recording this, we do still have a few spaces left if you'd like to join us. Now, if taking the class just feels like too much for you, or you're not somebody who really wants to spend that much time, you just want somebody to tell you what to do, then working with a coach is also an option for you. Again, fibromyalgiapodcast.com/88 will have all of those links for you. I hope this episode served to inspire you, to encourage you, and to just simply show you that it is possible to feel better. You can feel better than you do right now. The women that you heard from today aren't that different from you. Your story and their stories are probably very, very similar. This isn't just me being a unicorn that figured out something that nobody else can do. I help people do this every single day, and we would love to help you feel better too. See you here next time. And that wraps up another episode of the Fibromyalgia Podcast. I'm your coach, Tami Stacklehouse. For daily doses of hope, inspiration, and practical advice, come hang out with me on Facebook. Visit facebook.com/fibrocoach to find my personal coaching page and connect with me directly. To find the show notes, additional resources, or to schedule a consultation with me or one of my coaches, visit fibromyalgiapodcast.com.